When we're talking about the age group of 13 to 18 and asking ourselves the question, are they looking at pornography? What are some of the signs? What am I looking for? There's a couple areas we can start to put our finger on. Now, this doesn't mean they are automatically looking at pornography if these things are happening, but these are great areas of note to pay attention to as parents. And so the first one we're gonna look at is essentially how much sleep are they getting? Right? And we can pick up on some of these cues as well. Are they looking groggy? Are they looking like they only got a couple hours? This can mean a lot of different things. This can mean using a lot of electronics or screen time at night, which can add to that continued use of dopamine and seeking out pornography. This is often the time that they're alone. They feel a little more safe and secure, feel like no one's gonna come into their room. And so this can be the moments where they could be using pornography. Another area we want to look at that's really important is essentially their emotional expression and experience. Are they coming off sharp? Are they coming off disengaged and distant? Once again, that doesn't mean they're automatically watching pornography, but this gives us a clue of, let me start to dig in and be curious with kindness about the sort of emotional experience that's going on in their world that they might be trying to manage or escape via pornography. Another area we want to look at is essentially their social activity. A big telltale sign can be if they're resistant or don't seem to have the same desire to engage in social activities that they used to really enjoy, that they had fun with, going to the football game, going to do something with their friends, and they seem to be more comfortable just being reserved, staying at home, even being home alone. This can at times be a telltale sign that they might be engaging in pornography. Once again, not meaning it's automatically happening, but somewhere to foster some conversations about why that might be in their life. Outside of that, screen time in general is a great place to look of how much time are they spending on screens, because that has a natural connection to potentially finding their way, even in curiosity or exposure, into pornography. And so these are areas we want to look at and be aware of as potential signs that pornography may be being used by our teenagers. How do we have these conversations? A couple of keys here. Arguably the most important is we just want to normalize the conversation. And what I mean by that is we want to take away any shame or kind of uncomfortability from a conversation about pornography. And one of the best ways we can do that is having continuous and consistent conversations about it. Now, I'm not saying every conversation, right, needs to be about pornography, but checking in weekly, maybe monthly, having the conversation about it, what might be going on, about some of the things that can draw us into that, maybe even our experience as parents and some of the risks and feelings that it caused for us, really just helping it to feel like we can talk about this as a family. And therefore, if our teens struggle with it, get exposed to it, they begin to feel that safety of, oh, I can talk to mom and dad about this. This is a safe place for me. So we want to normalize and remove the shame as much as we can. Along with that, we want to talk about the deeper layers that are involved in pornography, about the emotional layers, about the desire that's going on, about the risk that may be contained in it, of how it can hurt us, as well as honoring and validating the complexity of it, that we may be trying to fulfill legitimate desires within our heart and soul in illegitimate ways. And so we want to speak about that from both sides, of that pornography can hurt us and the desires we're striving to fill are good things. We desire to be chosen, to be safe, to belong, and so many other things that we want to validate and start to work into a conversation of how do we do that in godly ways together and as a family. Another area we want to look at is creating a response plan of really helping our teens to see that they can bring anything in this area to us and we can talk about it in a safe way. The teen experience with pornography is often one of feeling powerless, isolated, and being misunderstood. And so really we want to counteract those messages and help them to understand whatever you're going through in this space, I understand it, I get it, I'm with you in it, and we can walk this journey together. And if we do those things together with our families, it's going to inspire a lot of healthy conversations for us and our teens about pornography. What do we do or what do we not do if we happen to find our teenager looking at pornography, or they come to us and confess that they've been looking at pornography? And I'll start with the don'ts, right? The number one answer that we don't want to do in that situation is we don't want to freak out. Whether it's anger or fear or shame or immediate punishment just coming with kind of that freak out response, it's going to inspire a lot of shame, a lot of disconnection, and a lot of separation between us and our teenager. And we need that to be connected to really walk through this journey together. So we always coach the no shock face of sounds like we've heard it 100 times, it doesn't scare us. We can walk through that together and begin that process and journey. That's okay, you are safe here, right? So we want to walk that process together with our teenagers. Grace, love, care, safety, being with them in the struggle. On top of that, what we don't want to do is be too solution focused too quickly. There can be a tendency of, let's get the blockers on, let's get the internet filters, whatever we need. What do we need to stop this as quickly as possible? And while there's a lot of good in that, it misses some of the core of the heart of where our teenager is at in this journey and struggle. It makes it feel like the only thing that matters is the performance of how much we act out or not with pornography. We know, and what parents know for sure, is that we love our children, right? And so we love them no matter what this struggle looks like. And so connecting with the heart of our teenager first, asking them about their feelings, their emotions, the desires that are going on, the stories in their head, the shame that may be present, and validating that, making that feel safe, and communicating our love and care for them in that, that's going to allow us to have very fruitful conversations about next steps and how we create safe boundaries and barriers for our teens moving forward. Another great question we get a lot in this space is, how do we communicate about a healthy, godly perspective in this area? And we'll name a couple different things around this, but of the ultimate key is this, that God has designed and created our sexuality, and it is good. There can be so much shame and brokenness in this area that we tend to start there, but we want to start here with the idea that God created it, designed it, and it is good. And that is so important for our teenagers. From there, something we want to really help them understand and understand for ourselves is that sexuality is complex, right? There's a lot of layers attached to it. It's a physical, emotional, sexual, very conglomerate experience of a lot of different things. And so we don't want to give black and white simple answers to a very complex part of the equation of sexuality. Alongside that, we want to talk about these ideas around sex, right? And some of the brokenness that come about. And something we want to share is that sex is not a need, right? Sexual arousal is beautiful, and we want to bless that and bring awareness to that in our teenagers and ask good questions about it of, what is that arousal about? What are the feelings and desires associated with that? And therefore, how can we engage that with God in our communities in healthy and godly ways? And so we want to talk about that, as well as the idea that sex is not a need. Sex is a metaphorical experience of the gospel, of this idea that God has given us his covenant love in relationship to us. And sex is just a metaphorical example of that. And so sex is not about marriage or having sex one day. It's a picture of the beauty of the gospel and the relational experience we can have with God at all times in our personal relationship with him. When we talk with our daughters and our girls about sexual desire, even from the male side, there's a couple areas that we really want to pay attention to, right? Number one is, let's start at the beginning, that sex was designed by God and it is good. It is a beautiful thing, not to be despised or immediately feared, but something that is beautiful and in God's design. And we need that to be able to have a balanced conversation about this with our daughters and everyone beyond. Outside of that, we want to talk about also the brokenness of this world, right? That brokenness has tainted and shaped our sexuality in a number of different ways. And especially for our young men out there who who are dealing with a lot of biological and physiological changes that can sometimes pump a lot of sexual energy into some of their curiosity and experience and wondering, how do I use this and steward this well? And most of the culture out there is sharing the idea that sexuality is only about the physical side. And so we want to speak about that with our daughters and help them understand that sexuality is involved in our physicality, our emotional experience, our spiritual experience. And so this idea that it is only physical is not a correct understanding of the fullness of sexuality and its connection to God and His goodness. And so alongside that, with some of the cultural narratives that are going on, we want to help teach our daughters this idea that men's sexuality is not a responsibility of our females to simply be the space where they can explore sexuality or experience sexual release. We are all in charge of stewarding our sexuality, whether we are male or a female, and stewarding it in a way that we get to experience it in healthy ways with God, our Creator, in His goodness. And so let's be curious, let's ask good questions, let's grow our awareness of these areas and build a safety there that our daughters, our sons feel free to have any conversation with us about what may be going on or what they may be seeing or hearing at school, and that we can talk about it from a biblical perspective. How do we put good boundaries and habits in place for our 13 to 18-year-olds in this space of sexuality and protecting against pornography? How do we do that, right? And so a couple things we want to pay attention to is, number one, how are we fostering emotional, connected, safe conversations in our home? And that starts with us as parents and leaders. We have to go first in sharing about our emotional experience and proving to our teenagers that it is safe, that we can talk about anything that is going on and not be judged, but have an openness that allows us to work through it together. That is so important in these spaces, along with really practical tools, right? Of internet web filters that are out there, safe internet filters, safe searches, good screen time parameters. And what I would say to those is also agreeing upon them as a team. Instead of coming down and just labeling these boundaries, talk about them with your teenager. Discuss the risks and the potential harm that could be caused, and discuss what might be good solutions for you guys as a family, and how can we practice these things together. That's going to create buy-in for the teenager and a celebration of these boundaries instead of a rubbing up against them, as is common from time to time. And then lastly, what I would say to that is, how are we opening up conversations about our own sexual brokenness and our stories of failure and sin, and opening those conversations up to help our teenagers see that we are not perfect people either, that we are broken and imperfect and in need of the gospel and grace of Jesus, and to work through these deeper layers into deeper connection with Him, ourselves, and our communities around us. That's going to create so much safety and build healthy conversations that need to happen to allow for these boundaries and habits to really flourish into a lot of healthy ways for our families as we continue in this space.